The cover art on the Beatles' latest single, Now and Then, has left a lot of people mystified. It's not exactly a national emergency, but there are a lot of angry voices on the internet. The sleeve design's minimalism and its apparent lack of nostalgia has been a letdown for many, but we think it's pretty great. The cover painting is by American artist Ed Ruscha, whose career retrospective is on right now at the Museum of Modern Art. It's called, fittingly, Now Then. A graduate of the Chouinard Institute, today's Cal Arts, Ruscha became known for a distinctly deadpan, LA version of pop art. He's a definitively 60s artist in the tradition of past Beatles collaborators like Peter Blake or Richard Hamilton, whose radical outer sleeve for the 1968 album, officially titled The Beatles but universally known as the White Album, is somewhat recalled in Ruscha's relatively minimal work on the new single. Ruscha latched onto words as a subject pretty early on in his career. He chose them, he said, as they have no size, so you can make them work at any scale you like. He selects phrases that can be simple and commonplace, or entirely incongruous and perplexing, but always evocative, opening up whole worlds of meaning and association, or nothing at all. Ruscha explores the endless possibilities in combining fonts and background saturation and texture, colour and space. He gives the words atmosphere, finds the atmosphere in the words, much like a songwriter might, working under the tight restrictions of the pop song. He's spoken in the past about the backgrounds being like stage settings or orchestral backdrops. The phrases sitting on a bed of strings, like a kind of psychedelic easy listening. Focusing on the words also makes a lot of sense given the apparent slightness of the piece. The hook for John Lennon, the song's original composer, was presumably the phrase itself, the very Ruscha now and then. So it's fitting that the cover should emphasise it pretty much exclusively. Lennon's fascination with the sound and feel of words goes all the way back to She Loves You's Yeah, Yeah, Yeahs. His fascination with double meanings, all the way back to the word please in 1963's Please Please Me. Even the phrase now and then appears in the relatively early single, Help. Likewise, now and then usually means occasionally, from time to time. It suggests a certain casualness. The song's narrator thinks of someone he misses from time to time, for example. But as the song goes on, the phrase now and then becomes a kind of chant, a mantra, as if the singer is trapped in a cycle of caring and not caring, being stuck in the present or stuck in the past. Further still, and it becomes a kind of insoluble problem. The phrase, a kind of monolithic representation of the insurmountable gap between now and then. How things were and how things are. A slippage in meaning in a state of emotional suspension never meant to be fully resolved. The song goes in circles between fondness, acceptance, and regret. The impossibility of recapturing the past, underlined by the image of the words on the cover. And perhaps this ambivalence is what's so anticlimactic for fans. This refusal to fully embrace the nostalgia, the words literally underlined by Ruscha like tears in the canvas, as if to emphasise their fundamental separation from one another. And yet, the song itself is a kind of impossible dream, stitching together multiple recordings, multiple times and places, reuniting the living and the dead. Fittingly for a song reconstructed from a scratchy demo on a cassette tape, the cover is resolutely analogue. Clearly paint and canvas. It embraces imperfection, with ghosting and bleeding in the stenciled letters. It's also a little bit 1940s, like a title card from a film or a public information poster going right back to the Beatles' wartime childhood. And of course, the Garamond-style font that Ruchet's been using since the 2000s is both clearly old and strangely timeless. Ruchet has designed a few record sleeves over the years. Music by Mason Williams in 1969, Paul McCartney's McCartney 3 in 2020, which used his so-called Boy Scout Utility Modern font. In 2011, he sent Van Dyke Parks a 1963 drawing when a free-to-use existing piece was requested for a series of 7-inch single releases. His suggestions for the cover were printed on the flip side. There's a long history of paintings on record sleeves, most of them by illustrators, of course, but existing paintings also crop up. Famously, Fontaine-Latour's A Basket of Roses, appropriated by Peter Saville for New Order's Power, Corruption and Lies. Or a personal favourite of the channel's, Steve Lacy's The Forest and the Zoo, which features a painting by Bob Thompson. Occasionally, musicians also paint their own album covers, particularly singer-songwriters who like to do everything themselves. There are also well-known examples of musicians commissioning painters to work towards album covers specifically. Kanye West enlisting George Condo for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Ruchet is also among many artists who contributed editioned covers for the controversial Interscope label, printed on linen sleeves designed by Gucci, and originally sold for a charitable cause. They've now entered the secondary market at crazy prices. The exclusivity that the White Album satirized with its serial numbers has come full circle. Even that album's meaninglessly high numbers have created a whole collecting culture. But Now and Then has none of this exclusivity. It's just an image, printed on a record sleeve, which happens to be a painting by a celebrated artist. That it's widely available at a fairly regular price is part of the charm of the thing. And love it or hate it, at the very least, we can be thankful it ended up like this, and not like this. Meaning, it looks a whole lot less corporate than it might have been. The Beatles logo, only used on releases after they split, would have instantly put a certain date stamp on it. The lack of extra information, the Apple label, or the monolithic name of the band which they were so often dwarfed under, allows the sleeve to live in a dimension of its own. It's not an image so much as an object or artifact, an impossible object that exists outside of time. For some people, a last gasp of Beatlemania. For others, it'll be the closest they'll ever get.